Fantasy Football Formula. In today's episode, we're going to be going through the 6 biggest fantasy losers from the NFL draft. This could be rookies that were drafted that ended up in amazing landing spots, or current NFL players that don't have as much competition, or whatever it may be that they benefited from the draft. So we will kick things off. Corey, do you want to start us off with the number 6 spot here?
I shall. And for number 6, we have Dawson Knox coming in to the role here. With them drafting Dalton Kincaid, the Bills did. The really does hurt Dawson Knox. Last year, pretty healthy, played 15 games, 65 targets, 48 receptions, 517 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Now, Dawson Knox is definitely not the most explosive tight end. I will say that he's more. They use him a lot in the run game as well as for blocking, and they were rotating in different tight ends throughout the year. I could see his production cut in half with just Dalton Kincaid coming in and being more of a yards after catch type of receiver tight end option. And he has Josh Allen. So Dalton Kincaid's going to thrive, and Dawson Knox's value is going to come down even more.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you can see Dawson Knox getting converted more to a blocker. Still is going to have some touchdowns, but Kincaid, they use significant draft capital on him, and that's very.
I think he just removes Knox's consistent red zone threat too. Like a lot of these tight ends we're playing that aren't the top tier guys. Like you're kind of just hunting touchdowns week over week, and to me, it's kind of risky now to play Dawson Knox. I think he's almost a fantasy irrelevant guy now.
I agree with that completely. Especially in best ball, maybe you get him as your second tight end, third tight end. In redraft, probably just an avoid. You don't draft him at all.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, 5.
Yeah, up to number 5, we got the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to talk a little bit about JSN and Tyler Lockett. They're both going to be chomping at the bit for market share. We saw last year Tyler Lockett had 9 touchdowns, 1,000-yard season, pretty good, right? Well, he's probably going to lose a decent amount of that market share to JSN. They play a very similar style of game here. It's kind of like they drafted the succession plan for him, and it's going to be an offense where they have to spread the ball out a lot. And when you're looking at a guy like Tyler Lockett, who typically was a good upside play, I don't think he has that same boom potential anymore with JSN in the mix. They also added Charbonnet, a little Chardonnay in there for the TDs in the red zone, and he's a prototypical pass catching back, which could also eat at that market share. So if we're looking at the short yardage game for the Seahawks, I'm not sure Tyler Lockett's going to be the lock at an answer there.
I honestly thought I thought they were going to trade him. I thought he had potentially be traded in the offseason, and they stuck with him.
But it's one of those things where everyone was excited to see where JSN was going to land, and he landed in kind of it's great for the Seahawks, but it's just not very fantasy friendly. Like you wanted him someone like the Chiefs where he could be maybe a wide receiver 1 or something like that, and now it's just a crowded skill position team.
So now, he really moves from a solid wide receiver 2 on your rosters down into a flex play at best.
Agreed. And JSN, for that sake, JSN, you rank him a little higher, maybe around late round 5, round 6, but Lockett moves to a round 7 type pick.
Yeah.
All right. We're at number 4, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Number 4, I got Jonathan Taylor. So we just saw them draft Anthony Richardson at number 4. They plan on. Why are we shaking our heads? This is like a consensus thing here we're doing. They drafted Anthony Richardson. They drafted Evan Hull, who's a pass-catching specialist. Taylor has scored the second most goal line touchdowns in the last 3 years. He's had 55 rushing attempts near the goal line, while Colts QBs have 12. The new Colts head coach, as we know, came over from the Eagles, who absolutely loved running plays for Hurts, in the red zone around the goal line. And Richardson is bigger than both Taylor and Jalen Hurts. He will be used tons around the goal line. He's going to play a ton. Like, they drafted him 4th overall, Anthony Richardson. He's going to play a ton. He's not just going to ride behind Gardner Minshew. He's going to get touchdowns vultured from him. And then with Evan Hull being more of a pass catching specialist, going from the unanimous 101 pick last year, he's now like he's a fantasy loser. He's like a 2nd round pick. Some people are taking him in the late 1st. But I don't know if he's going to pay that off.
I think, you could definitely expect a little bit of regression from 2 years ago. He's definitely going to have a better season than last year. Just given, I think,
Yeah, I would
we'll
hope
call
so.
it the
He was
Josh
like
Allen
RB
effect
60
for some
last
of these, red zone running quarterbacks. So I think the talent in Jonathan Taylor is still top of the league. And to your point, new head coach, what do the Eagles love to do? Run the ball. So I think that actually benefits Jonathan Taylor here. I think you can still expect him to be a good RB1, RB2 type of player.
Well, yes, of course. I'm talking
but
like he went from the
Is he
101
going to be
last
the
year.
perennial workhorse with, the only offensive talent on an offense anymore? No.
So my baby just woke up, so I'm gonna have Corey and Nick, since you guys are 3 and 2, and hopefully I make it back for number 1.
Right.
So
Good luck.
you guys, the duty calls. We got it right here. I got the proof. I don't know if you can.
All right, so at
Like-
3,
Yeah, I got 3.
we got, I
yeah.
think we got the Chicago Bears backfield
No.
committee
No.
at 3.
No, 3 is
What do you got?
3 is going to be the Seattle Seahawks backfield. So we will get to Chicago here in a minute.
Alright.
So obviously Penny's gone, and everyone thinks, okay, now Kenneth Walker, big man on campus like he was last year. Showed up rookie season,
Doak Walker winner.
did amazing, absolute stud. 15 games played, was healthy. 228 rushing attempts, over 1,000 yards, 27 receptions, 9 total touchdowns last year.
Bell
Absolute
cow as it gets.
workhorse. He came on late and not late, mid to early. Like I think like a third after the season started. The only reason I know that because I had him and he wasn't doing anything, and I traded him away and ended up costing me one of my fantasy teams. But yeah, they bring in the Chardonnay, Zach Charbonnet, as they draft him in the 3rd round, and he comes in as, again, pass catching running back like Nick mentioned. He's going to take the workload off of Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker probably would have been, without Penny there, and if they didn't draft him, he probably would have been a 1st round pick. Now, he's going to probably go late 2nd, maybe early 3rd, in terms of, and again, what Nick said, they added JSN as well. So there's just so many mouths to feed over there that it's going to take away from Kenneth Walker. He's going to get touchdowns vultured, and that's why Kenneth Walker is coming in as a fantasy loser this year.
Tough to see. He was a good talent while it lasted. All right, well, let's talk about another committee backfield here in the Chicago Bears. What do you think the percentage of rushing touchdowns to running backs the Bears had last year? I just want to throw this out there.
think
It
it's
kind of surprised me.
Is it like 5 rushing touchdowns?
Pretty close. 6.
6?
6 total rushing touchdowns with they had Montgomery and Herbert. So that leaves 65% of their touchdowns were either Justin Fields or kind of gadget plays to wide receivers, Velus Jones and Dante Pettis. So speedster guys on the edge. They went out and got Roshan Johnson from Texas, who's a good rookie, kind of an under-the-radar guy, but someone who could totally be a bell cow. If Bijan wasn't in front of him, I think he would easily be a top 5 rookie running back this year. So they got a real talented guy at a good value. We obviously know Khalil Herbert's sticking around, but I don't think any of these guys are going to be fantasy relevant just the way Justin Fields is running all the time. And I could see a true 50-50 split in just one of those situations. Kind of reminds me of the Bills' backfield last year with Singletary and James Cook. Like, you never really knew who was going to do anything. So it's just kind of a huge risk here to play anyone or really draft anyone in the Bears' backfields. So there are fantasy losers number 2 of the offseason.
All right. See, look at this. We got just
Baby's first report.
die hard for the content. Just have to manage the baby. And but anyway, number 1, we got Alvin Kamara. You know, we don't know if he's going to be in jail or not for a few games. Or sorry, not in jail. Maybe he's in jail, but suspended for at least a few games. So that immediately takes his value down. Number 2, they signed Jamal Williams, led the league in touchdowns last year. 3rd, they just drafted boy out of TCU,
Kendre
Miller, and you know they got him in the 3rd round. So, or maybe was it the 2nd? I think it was the 3rd. So, I mean, Kamara the last several years has been a 1st round pick. Last year, I think, with some of the speculation, he dropped to like the 3rd round. But I mean, you're talking like 8th, 9th round for him right now, and so he's definitely one of the biggest fantasy losers. We may never really see him return to what he used to be.
Yeah, given his age too, we know the typical rule of thumb for running backs is at 26, expect regression. We saw it last year a lot with Derrick Henry.
It depends on the wear and tear on the running back as well.
Yeah.
Kamara is used more in the pass catching game, so it's not as so much his legs, but this is more so drafting a running back, signing Jamal Williams, and his situation with.
I mean, guys can still do good. We saw Cordell Patterson compete until he was 28, so you know he might get some gas left in the tank, but I don't know if he's going to get that true workhorse. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he's definitely one of the biggest losers.
Yeah.
So that'll wrap up this episode of the 6 fantasy losers. I don't know what our next episode, our title is going to be, but tune in for that. We'll be next week. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.